Hi, this is Dave Evans of DV Indicators, and in this short video I'm going to take you through the main features of the DV Indicators for Excel tool. I'm just going to briefly go through each module and then follow up with more detailed videos on each section later. So very briefly, we have the DV Indicators, and this tab allows you to check indicators, run studies and see what's profitable, what isn't. Here we can see a list of all the indicators you have available for putting in there. Some of them aren't able to be put in the actual DV Indicators tab because you can they have their own modules. But again, I'll go through that in more detail in another study. The Market Download tab allows you to download recent data, dividend adjusted. DV Panel allows you to play around with data when you have actually downloaded it. The Reports allows you to check up on the progress of and ability of lots of different indicators on multiple markets in a single report. And the DV Gaps, this is based on the gap studies that David Varadi's created. So very quickly, DV Indicators, let's look at this. So let's have a look at the DV Oscillator. And what it will do, and I've chosen the SPY, the S&P 500 ETF. Click Run, and what it'll do is download the data. It gives us the indicator value. It's the signals, long and short, the compounded returns and the simple returns, and we can see it's done rather well, and with various metrics on its performance here as well. So that's very briefly what you can get, and obviously there's a lot more to it, so I'll follow up with another video, but that is generally what you can do with this tab. Market download, you download dividend adjusted or not price data. So here I've downloaded the S&P 500 ETF SPY. Let's have another one. Let's go for the GSPC, the S&P 500 cash index. It's downloaded here. Now this links in well with the panels, because what you can do is all those indicators that are available to you, you can actually put the raw scores in here. DVB. These are all names of different indicators that are available. If you click the panel, there we go. Here are all the actual scores for those indicators, and then if you've got a modicum of Excel knowledge, you can play around with them to see how the different levels interact. The reports, let's do that now. So I'll just set this up. The Reports tab allows you to check multiple indicators on a top level basis on multiple markets, and the advantage of this is you can very quickly see which indicators work well on different markets, and then you can study them further with the other tools available to you. So let's just some of the main DV indicators. So they're called the DVO, the DVB, DVR, and then let's check out the S&P 500 ETF, the SPY, the Triple Q, and the diamonds. Now we select the Reports tab. Now this will take about 30 seconds, so I'll just pause the video. Okay, here's what the Reports tab has produced. So we've got 3 different indicators, 3 different markets, and we can see the indicator value, the current signal, the 1-year % return, the 1-year Sharpe ratio, and the compound annual growth rate. So we can see that the DVO historically has got the best compound annual growth rate of all the indicators. So if you were, for example, looking to concentrate on one of the indicators, which one has the most potential, then you might want to start with the DVO, because you've now identified that, at least on the S&P 500 ETF, this has the best performance. Although interestingly, the DVB has the better performance this year, so that may be something to take into account. And here's the gap study. With this one, you just click the tab and then choose the market you want it to download, and the information will come up. And here I've chosen the ISF, which is the UK FTSE 100 tracking ETF. I've just chosen that because right now the US markets are closed. In my experience, the best gaps happen on the S&P 500 ETF, the SPY, but there's nothing to stop you trying this on other markets as well. So what this does, it gives you the current type of gap, or lap. A lap is where the market opens away from the previous high or low but it's still within the previous close, but it's still within the range, whereas a full gap is when it completely opens away from the previous high. The DVLD is the size of the gap in percentage rank terms. So 30% means it's about 30% size-wise between 0 and 100. So in a scale of 1 to 10, it's about 3 in terms of the size of the gap. And in quintiles, so that's in the second quintile, again, between 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, it's about second out of 5 in terms of how big that gap is. On the right here, we can see how different gaps types have performed on the ISF. And we've got a lap down in the second quintile. And we don't need to scan too much because it already tells us what type of gap this is here with this little arrow. So we've got a gap lap down. We can see the average win percentage of it being filled. So if we get a lap down, the strategy would be to go long. The average trade is actually not too great, with a relatively small win to loss ratio. So if you were looking at today's market, you saw that the ISF, the FTSE 100 ETF had lapped down. So what that means is it's opened below the previous close, but within the previous day's range. And you might look in this and say, hang on, is this gap going to close? But then you can look at this study and say, well, based on other factors as well, you wouldn't necessarily just trade based on this. The risk reward for that closing the gap isn't the greatest. Okay, so that gives you a very brief overview of all the features available with the DV Indicators plugin, and I shall follow up in more detail with each of these features in more detail.